Alright everybody, welcome. Thanks for watching. What you got here is a 2010 Chevy Colorado with a 2.9 liter 4-cylinder. I've got a check engine light due to code P0017. Infamous code. Unfortunately, I can't pass inspection in my state with that code in. So hopefully today, we're going to fix that. So this is an AC Delco replacement part, which is essentially OEM for General Motors. You can see here the part number 126-15873. They match for both the AC Delco and the GM part number. This picked up from Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description for you so you can check it out yourself. A whole bunch of aftermarket stuff like this with a part that's as inexpensive as this. You may spend twice as much, but in my opinion, I think you're better off with something like this to ensure you get the quality that you're going to need and not have to go through this again. Do some unboxing here. So pretty well packed. Inside a plastic bag, inside another plastic bag, and you can see in here that there's a whole bunch of oil residue, and my guess is just because it's been tested, so it's kind of yucky, but at least you know that it's been tested. So you may want to wear latex gloves or something if you don't want to get this stuff on you, but have some towels handy. Pretty straightforward. This is the mounting bracket here. We'll get to that when I get to the truck. Obviously, electrical connections. There's only 2 probes on it. Solenoid is electrically up here, but the piston and everything is down here. There's some springs in here and some oil ports and all that kind of stuff. As with any electrical solenoid, there's a couple things you can check. First thing is you can check the resistance of the coil that makes up the solenoid. All it is many thousands, probably winds of wire that are in there. And you're looking for a couple ohms. It won't be 0, even though you're really checking it cost 1 piece of wire. The other thing you want to check is all of the windings to ground or to the casing to make sure that it's not shorted to the case. That'll prevent operation. So I just got a digital multimeter over here. First thing I'll do, you've got the 2 electrical probes that are in there. You can see those 2 little hashes that are in there. That's the electrical portions coming out of that. So I'm just going to take, doesn't matter, positive to negative, negative to positive, doesn't matter how you check it. Just going to take electrical resistance here, and we're looking at about 8 ohms or so, 8.1 ohms. That's pretty typical. I'm not a big electrical guy, but I would say that's about right for the electrical connections. So now I'll just pick one and touch the probe to one side and touch the other probe to the case, and I should get an overload or a overrange, or however your multimeter sets up the fact. You should get infinite resistance. Switch leads and check the other side. Alright, so that's good. Now the next thing I'll check here is the actual operation of the unit. Now you can hook this directly up to your battery if you would like. Alligator clip cables, you can hook up 2 ends of those to the battery, positive, negative, and the other 2 ends are going to go in here. I'm lucky enough to have a bench power supply here. You can just see it on the camera. So we're going to turn that on, set it for 12 volts. And I've got it about, I'll put it at about 1 amp. And then 1 lead, I have an alligator clip on, wherever the end of that is. So I'll connect that to one side. And again, the polarity here should not matter. So I'll put the alligator clip on here. And then with the other one, I've got a regular test lead, and I'm just going to touch the other wire, and the solenoid should actuate. I don't really know what to expect. It's not that huge. I don't expect it to, pop in my hand or anything like that too bad, but I'll just touch it. And again, I've only got it on 1 amp, so this might not be too exciting the first time. Alright, so that's definitely working, so that's good. So now I know that this solenoid is good, not that I had the doubt of it, but I know now also when I get the old one out of the car, I know what to test to see if the old one is bad. One thing to point out here is there is no distinguishing marks that I can see anywhere that says AC Delco on the solenoid itself, and no other numbers that I can find on the box that match the stamp numbers on here on the side of the solenoid. I wish there was a kind of way to do that, because I'm just kind of curious of what solenoid that's in it. So anyway, so now we'll move out to the truck that's tested, and we'll get the old solenoid out. But first, I got to move my other project car, a 1966 Triumph Spitfire, out of the garage here so I can make some room. Alright, so what you see there is P0017, the crank shaft position, exhaust cam shaft position, not plausible. I'll explain to you here what that means. So what we've got here is a 2.9 liter 4-cylinder engine in this Chevy Colorado. Pretty advanced engine, as you would expect for most modern engines. It's a dual overhead cam. You've got your exhaust cam on that side, or excuse me, your intake cam on that side, your exhaust cam on this side. Just where the camshaft is riding to, in accordance with whatever the computer tells it to do, to make it meet emission standards and all that other kind of stuff. So there is a crankshaft sensor and there's a cam position sensor, specifically only the exhaust cam. On the front of the exhaust cam is a sprocket that can be adjusted, and that's what that solenoid, that variable valve timing solenoid, does, is pour more or less oil commanded by the computer to change the sprocket position and allow you to adjust where the camshaft, the exhaust camshaft, works. The computer monitors the camshaft position and the crankshaft position after telling it what to do, you know, what it's telling it to do and then what it's actually doing. And what this code is indicative of is that what the computer's telling the camshaft to do, it's not seeing the camshaft doing. So there's a spec so many degrees between where it thinks the crankshaft should be in relation to the camshaft, and that's that relationship that's getting thrown off. So it thinks that the camshaft should be within X number of degrees of the crank, and it's not seeing that, and it's spitting the code. So what I'm hoping is replacing that solenoid will fix that, because it'll operate more smoothly or more cleanly or whatever, and allow the system to work properly. Another alternative is that the crankshaft sensor is bad or your camshaft sensor is bad. They've both been replaced on this car within about 10,000 miles, so I don't suspect that to be the case. The worst case scenario is that the actual sprocket on the exhaust camshaft is bad, and they can loosen up over time, or the timing chain itself could be so loose that it's getting out of whack and stretched so much that it's not allowing it to line up properly. 65,000 miles on this truck, I would hope that a 65,000 mile pickup truck is not going to have mechanical problems like that. It is a chain, it's not a belt, it's a metal sprocket, right? All this stuff should be built pretty well. I would not expect that to wear out that quick. So hopefully that's not the case. That's a high dollar repair, a couple $1,000s probably if you take it to a garage to do that. That's outside of my expertise. But well within my expertise is replacing this solenoid sensor, or excuse me, this camshaft solenoid or variable valve timing solenoid. So essentially what I need to do here is we'll remove this intake manifold here, or piping, so that it'll allow the air intake so it can get out of the way, so it's a little bit easier for you to see. And then essentially the solenoid, which is right here, is going to be right there, and we'll get that out and get going. Alright, so I'll show you what I did there just so you can see in a close-up. Loosened up this guy, removed this plug. Now this is one of those, well, I'd say a bad word, but these are one of these clips that are easily broken. It's got the little tab, so you just essentially press down on that, and that's where the little lock mechanism is, so you want to make sure you just can't pull that off. You got to press down and unlock it a little bit. This little guy is also connected, and you pinch this. This is a really bad angle. You kind of pinch that and open it up, and that's what removes it around this thing. The two little lock tabs are at the top of the bottom, so when you pinch the inside, you expand that circle and make it an oval, and it releases that. And then this whole cover for the air filter is going to come off. You got a clip here and a clip down there. Hopefully I'm not making you seasick there, and that should lift off, and we'll be able to get that whole thing out. Alright, good opportunity here to inspect your air filter, and this one looks to be in pretty good shape. There's some debris in that. I might blow that out, but it definitely doesn't need to be replaced. I do have some leaves and stuff in here, so I'll get the vacuum over here in a minute and vacuum that out. Alright, so to give you a little perspective where we are, here's the intake cover, and then that right there is a solenoid, so I'll zoom in here and we'll show you set up here. Alright, so there's the solenoid. You got a wiring harness here that's not really interference. I'll just slide it out of the way. There is a little electrical clip right off camera here that the power steering fluid is attached to the power steering fluid canister. Alright, so you can see the electrical connector on here, and this one's even more odd than the other one. It's got this white cap on it, and then it's got a little white lock in there. I'll give you a close-up when I get it off. Essentially what you do is this little extra white piece here, you slide that out until it hangs up, and then I took a little flathead screwdriver, pressed in on this little clip here. That allows you to remove that. You don't want to lose that guy. and then you can press in on the back here and then pop that at that point. If you can see this little tab, if you can see that little tab that's under there, that's what locks it in. When you remove that, that loosens that up, and you just kind of pull out and you're there. So now it's only a 1 bolt insertion or 1 bolt attachment. There is an oil seal on this, so I would expect some small amount of oil to come out, but you're not in the oil flow path, so you don't need to drain the car's oil or anything like that. That bolt's pretty small. You're probably looking at about a 10 millimeter or so. All right, that was it. That was loose. I'm just using a regular old wrench here. Not even, these things are not very tight. Now I will say that the motor's hot, right? This is the exhaust side. So even if you run the motor just a little bit, be careful, because stuff down here is going to be really hot, like that was. All right, there's the bolt, just a little guy. All right, and then it should just wiggle out. You might have to take a little screwdriver in there and just break the oil seal, but I just got it broken and I did not. So I'll put a little rag under there just in case. All right, get that wire out. I'll slide right out of there. All right, so there's the solenoid. Unfortunately, it looks really good to me, so I'm not so sure that this is going to fix my problem. No oil out, but you want to, again, it is an entryway into the motor, so I'm just going to leave the rag there, take this solenoid over to the bench, and test it. So we have the old solenoid here. Looking at it, it's got the same type of etching and everything like that this one does. Different numbers, of course, but I have a feeling that that tells me that this is also an AC Delco part, which kind of is frustrating because I was hoping it would be an aftermarket part. Not as good, and I might get lucky. But anyway, we'll take resistance readings first. So across the coil, again, on the new one, I got about 8 ohms. About 10 ohms on this one. I wouldn't call that different enough to matter. All right, we'll take the case and see if I've got any shorts. All right, so it doesn't appear that the coil is shorted or open. Go ahead and hook up the power supply. All right, it seems to operate identical to the old one. So my guess is unfortunately, this is not going to fix my problem, but hopefully it will yours. All right, slide it in, line up the bolt hole, get the bolt started. All right, and I'll tighten it up a little bit. It wasn't very tight to come off, so I'm not going to grunk on it to put it in. All right, so that should be good there. Hook up the electrical wire to it. Don't forget the little lock. Alright, that's all connected. We'll put the air cleaner, or I'll get the air cleaner put back or cleaned up and get the air suction piping back on. Alright, motor's all back together. That literally took me probably 15 minutes. I'd be hard pressed to come up with a easier job than that. Even changing the oil is more difficult than that. But whether or not it's going to fix my problem has yet to be seen. But that's definitely a 10 millimeter wrench and a flathead screwdriver, because you can use flathead screwdrivers instead of a nut driver on this, and you can replace this solenoid. So very simple to do. I would recommend that if this happens that you go ahead and replace the solenoid, and don't be afraid of this one. But now we'll go in, we'll clear the code. I'll take the truck around the parking lot here real quick and see if it comes back. In my experience, the last time I cleared the code, it came back almost immediately. So I don't expect miracles, but we'll see. Got the code reader here. We'll go ahead and erase the code. Essentially says clearing everything, clears everything, shut the engine off and place the ignition on off, which I am. Are you sure? Yes or no? And yes, I am. So now it's erased everything, and once I start the car, the check engine light will clear. It's relinking. All right, so it's linked. You can see all these red things, and essentially what that does is, what they don't want you to do is get one over on the inspection station, so it makes it go through all of the tests before it will consider the car passed. And when they hook it up to their computer in the inspection station, they'll see that you haven't reset some of these, and they won't allow you to go through emissions testing until all of these are reset. So you got some driving ahead of you, make sure. But right now, I'm going to start the car up, leave the, disconnect this because I don't need it to see the check engine light. Take it around the block real quick and see if I'm lucky. All right, well, back from my little excursion. I only put about a mile on it, but no check engine warning light. It did come in last time on me by now after I reset it. So only time will tell. I obviously have to run it for a little while just to clear the reset timers on the code. But hey, let's get it to inspection and get past. At least give me another 2 years. Hey, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.